Hello, everybody, and I'm proud to be joined by Senator Murray and Senator Padilla. So, as everyone knows, negotiations continue on DHS funding, including the Coast Guard, FEMA, CISA, while also securing real reforms to rein in ICE and stop the violence. Over the weekend, progress was getting made. Then Donald Trump threw a temper tantrum. He demanded Republicans tie the SAVE Act, voter suppression, to TSA paychecks. It was outrageous from the start. Democrats knew it, and Republicans knew it too. And because of Donald Trump, negotiations started falling apart. That's not just a delay, that's real harm. That's another day TSA workers go without pay. Let's not forget, Democrats have now tried 8 times to pass clean TSA funding. Supposed to have a little. Here we are. In case you missed it.
Right here.
Oh, well, here we go. They're always ahead of me. They're a great staff, aren't they? Anyway, we have voted 8 times for funding, and Republicans have blocked funding 8 times. 8 times we asked, no poison pills, no politics, no conditions, just paychecks and public safety. 8 times Republicans blocked it. Instead of paying our TSA agents what they deserve, Republicans have chosen 8 times to keep our airports in chaos. And what does Trump do? He sends ICE agents to airports. ICE agents don't run security lines. They don't screen passengers or move travelers. By all accounts, many are just standing around. So Americans are asking a simple question. People at airports say to one another, why is Trump paying ICE agents overtime to stand around instead of paying TSA workers to move the lines? Makes no sense.
All right, so let's talk about what just happened in the Senate hearing, because there's a lot of noise, a lot of strong language, and honestly, a lot of confusion about what it actually means. At the center of this hearing is a dispute over DHS funding and the SAVE Act, and it quickly turned into a political clash between Senate leadership and former President Trump. The key accusation that's getting attention is that Trump is being blamed for disrupting negotiations. Specifically, that his influence led to a breakdown in talks that could have secured funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Before we get into the analysis, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support deeper, independent breakdowns like this, you can check out patreon.com/45thperspective. It really helps keep this kind of content going. Now, let's unpack what actually happened. From one side, Senate Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, are arguing that negotiations over DHS funding were moving forward until Trump stepped in and pushed Republicans to reject the deal. Schumer framed it as political interference, even going as far as describing it as a temper tantrum, suggesting that the decision wasn't about policy disagreements, but about political strategy and control. The implication here is serious. DHS funding isn't just another budget line. It covers border security, disaster response, cybersecurity, and counterterrorism. So when negotiations fall apart, the concern is that it could directly impact national security and government operations. Democrats are essentially saying, this isn't a game, and political maneuvering shouldn't come at the expense of stability. On the other side, Republicans are pushing back hard against that narrative. Their argument is that the issue isn't about Trump disrupting anything, it's about the substance of the deal itself. Many conservatives have concerns about what's included in the SAVE Act and the broader funding package, particularly when it comes to immigration policy and enforcement. From their perspective, rejecting the deal isn't sabotage. It's standing firm on policy principles. They argue that if a bill doesn't adequately address border security or includes provisions they disagree with, then walking away is not only justified, but necessary. Some also point out that Trump still has significant influence within the party, so his involvement reflects the priorities of a large portion of Republican voters. So what you really have here is 2 completely different interpretations of the same event. One side sees political interference that derailed a necessary agreement. The other sees legitimate policy resistance to a deal they believe is flawed. And this is where things get more complicated. because beyond the headlines and the back and forth, this situation highlights a deeper issue in American politics right now: how difficult it has become to reach bipartisan agreements, even on critical funding measures. Negotiations are no longer just about compromise. They're also about messaging, power, and positioning for future elections. And when you bring someone like Trump into the equation, it adds another layer. Whether you support him or not, there's no denying that he has a strong influence over the Republican base and, by extension, over many lawmakers. That influence can shape decisions in real time, especially on high-stakes issues like this. For ordinary Americans, the question becomes, what does this mean for you? In the short term, the biggest concern is whether DHS funding gets delayed or disrupted. If negotiations continue to stall, it could lead to uncertainty around government operations, which can have ripple effects, everything from border management to emergency response systems. In the long term, though, this is about trust in the system. When both sides are accusing each other of acting in bad faith, it makes it harder for people to believe that decisions are being made with the public's best interest at heart. Instead, it starts to feel like everything is driven by political strategy. At the same time, it's important to recognize that disagreement isn't necessarily a bad thing. In a democracy, opposing views are expected. The real issue is whether those disagreements lead to productive outcomes or complete gridlock. And right now, it feels like we're seeing more of the latter. There's also a media angle to all of this. The language used, terms like temper tantrum, is designed to grab attention and shape perception, but it can also oversimplify what's actually a complex policy dispute. When political conversations get reduced to sound bites, it becomes harder to understand what's really at stake. So stepping back, a more balanced view might be this: yes, political influence plays a role in negotiations, and yes, policy disagreements are real. Both things can be true at the same time. The challenge is figuring out how to move forward when those forces collide. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about Schumer or Trump or any single piece of legislation. It's about how decisions get made, how compromises are reached, and whether the system can still function effectively under pressure. And that's something worth paying attention to. I'm curious to hear what you think about all of this. Do you see this as political interference, or as a justified stand on policy? Do you think situations like this are just part of the process, or a sign that something bigger is broken? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, keep it respectful.
Maybe the answer is this: security isn't the goal. And this is something rather pernicious. Hope you've seen it. Steve Bannon said the quiet part out loud, calling using ICE agents at the airports a test run for using ICE in the 2026 election. Can you imagine? It's chilling. ICE should leave the airports. TSA workers should be paid. And Republicans should stop playing games. No intimidation, no more chaos, enough. And let me say one more thing on the SAVE Act. This morning we learned Donald Trump, who constantly attacks vote by mail, used vote by mail himself. Typical Trump hypocrisy. Every day there are more examples. So it's fraud when Americans do it, but fine when he does. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense at all? That tells you everything you need to know. It's never been about fraud. It's about rigging the election. And now Republicans are trying to dress it up with the so-called common sense voter ID amendment. Don't be fooled. That proposal is a cover-up. It's more extreme than the laws in every single state, red or blue. It overrides state law. It blocks it blocks IDs that millions rely on, students, veterans. You can't even use your military ID under their proposal. And of course, it's a cover-up. They actually just added it into the bill after the bill was done, because they knew when people saw it was voter suppression, it would be so unpopular and so poorly received. So Democrats support common sense voter ID, but what Thune put in isn't that. What the bill is voter suppression, plain and simple. Senator Murray.